the like biggest thing that probably most people are aware of is that there is a full moon, and it is the second full moon in Capricorn that we've had this year, the first one being last month on June 21st. So it is extremely important. And I think I remember leading up to that full moon in Capricorn in June, and then it's happening again. A full moon is a time of like probably the most energy. Like there's going to be there's an increase in energy as the moon gets bigger, and then a decrease in energy as the moon gets smaller. But in the full moon, what we're supposed to be asking ourselves is, what are we needing to let go? But it's like because it's Capricorn is, I think, kind of seen as like, a lot of people see Capricorn as sort of like a conservative energy, and it absolutely can be. Every sign is really just a different style of doing things in every sign. I think this is important for us as abolitionists to know. Every sign has the capacity to be, for example, very right-wing and very left-wing. Every sign has the capacity to be oppressive and the oppressed, if that makes sense, or to be oppressive and anti-oppression. So Capricorn, I think, really gets seen a lot as more of an oppressor. It's very conservative, very traditional, very concerned with like how things should be, structures, keeping things like foundations, keeping things the same. And that can absolutely play out in the ways that we all think, like people being like, this is the way we've always done it, white supremacy, blah, right? But Capricorn energy, Capricorn style, is actually an introverted and earth sign. So it is actually, and it actually Capricorn occurs at the beginning of winter. We think about that as like a time of rest, a time of introversion, a time of like going inward and letting the earth like lay fallow so that it can build foundations. And it looks like there's nothing happening. It looks like there's nothing happening on the outside, but there's a lot happening underneath. So I like to think of Capricorn energy because this is the thing, is we all have Capricorn in our charts. We all have, and then Capricorn energy is in the world. Like, I think of these signs as like, these are just the different energies that are out there in the world, and we can choose to use them in certain ways or not. So the way I like to think about Capricorn energy is that it is kind of like it's a bit like a parent that wants to take care of whoever, like whether that's children or whatever, through building structures and foundations, through building, I want to say discipline, but like that loving discipline of like, no, we need to build from the bottom up. We can't run before we walk. We can't, get ahead of ourselves, if that makes any sense. So if the full moon is about letting go, I feel like this full moon in Capricorn, the last full moon in Capricorn, is asking us to consider what is not working. What is not working in terms of the foundations and structures that we have built thus far? What are those within ourselves? What are the relationships that we have built that are not serving us, that we need to let go of or consider letting go of? Because these things, it's not always going to be right away. That's what I'm seeing with the full moon. In addition, there's a lot of other things happening. So in addition to the full moon, okay, this is what I want to say. So again, Capricorn wants us to succeed. And again, success can be seen in a very patriarchal, white supremacist way, which is generally what most of the world uses Capricorn energy for, which is, I think, is why we see it that way, is we see Capricorn energy as being very male, very toxic, all of this. But actual Capricorn energy that is of the earth, that is of the land, is really about, like, again, building the building blocks, putting the building blocks in place so that in the future there can be success of whatever it is that we want. So in that way, Capricorn can feel like it's limiting us. It's like when you limit a child, or you limit, as a teacher, or like in any sort of role, even with a pet, right? Like, you're limiting them. No, like, you can't watch 8 hours of TV, right? I mean, my kid just watched 8 hours of TV yesterday. But kind of understanding, seeing as the person who has a bit more experience and wisdom, lived experience, not as a dictator, not as an oppressor, but as someone who's like, oh, okay, I kind of see how this pans out. If you run out onto the street, you're probably going to get hit by a car, so I'm going to teach you how to look both ways before you walk across. And that, to me, is Capricorn energy. I would say a lot of people see Capricorn as like daddy, versus like Cancer, which is the opposite sign, is seen as mommy. If we're looking at like binaries in that way. But again, I'm like really into encouraging more of a, I'd say, decolonial, pre-colonial like view of these signs, and how we can actually use them to our benefit. So the other things that are happening, yay! This week there was a Mars-Taurus conjunction, or Mars-Uranus conjunction that happened. I can't remember what the exact date was now. It's on my Instagram. If you want to go to my Slow Motion Spiritual Instagram, you can see that I made a post about it. It was literally like the day after Trump got shot at. And so Mars-Uranus is absolutely like aggression, irritation, fighting. Uranus is all about like, Uranus wants to like make things, kind of wants to explode things. And again, that can be used for good, that can be used for evil, whatever we want to see good and evil as. But yeah, like Uranus can be used to like tear down systems, but Uranus can also be used to oppress. Mars can be used as aggression to protect, to separate, to ensure that we are taking care of in a fierce way the things that we really care about. But Mars can also be very volatile and overly aggressive. So again, it's a spiral, it's a spectrum. There is no like right or wrong in terms of just the planet in and of itself, or the sign in and of itself. I'm just going to say that Mars and Uranus and Taurus, it's like connected to a lot of other things that have been building for some time. So all the things that we saw happen, or that we've seen happen this last week, like Trump being shot at and a million other things, they're coming together. They came together 2 years ago, and they've kind of been building an energy to come together for some time. And because it's in Taurus, which is a fixed, stubborn earth sign, again, it's going to be about things that we feel are about our security, about our stability, about meeting our basic needs, all sorts of things. But also about like how we come together and how we work together. Taurus is very, sensual and sensual in a way where it's like it wants to feel connection, and it wants to have things that make it feel safe and comfort. Again, comfort is not a bad thing, but when it is taken to with a certain lens, can absolutely be harmful. The way that we take our own comfort at the expense of others. That is, that's something that we see happening. We are trying to remain close to our values, and we're really being critical of ourselves even in holding ourselves to those values. And to just know that not everyone is doing that. And I think we know that. It's very clear that not everyone is doing that. When people are not tuning in, and this is Taurus, when people are not tuning in to what their actual real values are, and they're not aligned with them, like they're saying one thing on the outside, right? Taurus wants us to be aligned with our true values, truly on the inside, with our spirit, with our heart, with our soul, with what we think and we know, right? And when a human being is saying one thing, I'm for abolition, I'm anti-racist, they're saying one thing and they're acting in other ways, and they're feeling that shame. They haven't figured out ways to act in ways that are actually aligned with their values. They have these barriers, they have these things in their way. They're going to act out and project it onto other people. You're the reason why I can't act aligned with my values. You're the reason why, you're the reason why, you're the reason why. So that's kind of what I see happening with the Mars, Uranus, and Taurus, and now it's all just exploding. One more, I guess, difficult thing, and then I'll say some things that can be helpful. Pluto, it's retrograding right now. This is the final time it's going to retrograde. It's in Aquarius, but it's going to be in Capricorn soon in September. And this is the last time it's going to be in Capricorn for about 250 years. This is the Pluto return of the United States. So we can see what's happening in the United States. We can see how things are being, it's always been this way, but things are being revealed. Pluto likes to do that. Pluto is in our lives to excavate and almost exercise what again is not working. It's asking us to transform things, which again is something that we as abolitionists really want to do. But again, it's an energy that people can use in one way or another. So when people are using it, not necessarily, first of all, there's people like fucking Trump and all these fuckers who are out there feeling that energy of we gotta change things, we gotta take back America, we gotta make America great again. And they're using that Plutonian energy for that, right? We're here trying to use this energy of the world is terrible to turn it into something that we align with. So just recognizing again that as we know, there's a lot against us, but we need to tap into that Plutonian energy on our level. And, anyone who has a lot of Scorpio in their chart is really going to identify with Pluto and with Mars, because they're just Mars wants to protect and wants to take action, and Pluto wants everything to be deep, super deep. So yeah. Pluto is doing that, and so this full moon has a very Plutonian vibe. Again, all to say, it's all very intense. Now to the supportive transits, because there are supportive transits. There are some really nice things. Okay, so the sun is currently trine to Neptune. The sun is in Cancer and Neptune is in Pisces. And these are both water signs. So already just the energy of water, the cooling energy of water, taking time to whatever your rituals are, whatever your practices are, whatever the things are, taking that time to cool our thoughts, to cool our energies, to cool our bodies, whatever it is. Water, but also knowing that water can be very forceful. Water is very strong. It may be seen as this fluid thing that is movable and again, like fluid, but water is also very strong. Cancer water is like a waterfall, a big gush of energy and water that can just like fill up anything really, really quickly. And there can be this, like, I think with Cancer too, being a crab symbol for Cancer, Cancer wants to protect. Cancer wants to nourish. Cancer wants to take care of. Cancer is going to sort of protect what it feels like its babies, what it feels like attached to, and what it feels. And again, that can be used for whatever purpose. So I think that's something that we can really like step into, is just to use that energy, tap into that energy that is in the, in the air already, of the sun with Neptune, within Pisces and Cancer. Pisces and Neptune are both extremely spiritual. So whatever spiritual means to you, I know there's some woo folks in here, some witchy folks, but whatever that means, Neptune in Pisces wants us to see that, like, it wants us to sort of blur and merge. And what I mean by that is, like, we can't get so lost in the details that we lose the bigger picture. And I think what I mean by that is, like, for our own ability to survive, we have to make sure that we are using the energies, again, like, and I feel like of our ancestors, to give us strength that is, like, not from that patriarchal place of, like, I've got to be, like, fucking hard. I think the sun trine to Neptune, for me, is more about tapping into our deep inner wisdom and knowing, where we are able to just step into a room, a meeting, a Zoom room, whatever it is, and simply speak from that very powerful place, which can absolutely be very strong and very wise. And I think that support is there, and just kind of knowing that that's there, and knowing that, like, the ancestors are with us, the ancestors of the land, of our blood lineage, whoever, the people who've come before us in this kind of work, they've encountered this before. We are not the first people to encounter this kind of resistance. I think that's really it, is like it's the spiritualization and the bringing in of spirit into our own identity and into our own light, how we show up in the world. So whatever the fuck that means to you. I know everyone has different ideas of what that means, but for me, it's just something that I picture. I picture spirit literally around me and within me, and a light coming out. And not because, and like, I don't know what that does. I don't know what the, like, impact of that is on other people, but I know that the impact on me is that maybe I feel a little bit clearer, a little bit more calm, and I'm able to go into a situation and speak. I think for those of us who maybe feel scared to speak up, I'm going to say that, like, for people who feel scared to speak up, I think that the sun trine Neptune can give us that power and give us a way to access that power and that ability to speak up where we're afraid to. And then I think for those of us who feel like, and I feel both often. Sometimes I feel afraid to speak up, and sometimes I feel like I'm like reactive, like, what the fuck? I think the sun Neptune can just help me drop from my head into my body and come from a different place. It's harm reduction for me, essentially, right? So there's a sun trine Neptune, and then there is, what's the other one? Yeah, so there's a Mars trine Pluto, which I think is a little bit, I'd say it's probably more overtly strong, if that makes sense, because Mars and Pluto are just more like protective, like warrior kind of planets, warrior energy for sure, and they are in Aquarius and Gemini. Mars is going to be in Gemini for a little bit. I don't know, I want to say like a month and a half or maybe 2 months. Mars, again, is about taking action. It's about like protection, standing up, doing something. It can be rash, absolutely. So this transit again, it feels a little bit more strong. It's more mental. So this transit is supportive to us because it helps us to really, I think Mars and Gemini helps us to really want to show up to communication. It can help us, those of us that are thinking about this stuff, it can help us if we are scared to speak up, to speak, to get out there and ask the questions, to not leave any stone unturned, to like, if somebody says something that we don't understand, hey, what do you mean by that? Hey, can we talk about that more? Hey, like to get into the nitty gritty and the details. Again, though, it can also like have people be really rash and have people be like, have lots of anxiety. Is that Mars and Gemini is hitting them and they're like, Mah! Like all of a sudden they're just like, we have to say all these things. And it's just like, what the fuck? But we can use it for those of us, again, who like, maybe we don't want to bring something up. It's like, no, Mars and Gemini, picture that. It can help you bring it up. Pluto in Aquarius is the revolution. Pluto in Aquarius is the revolution. It's going to be in Aquarius for the next 20 years after it goes back into Capricorn. And so we're going to be using this for a while. But right now, that Pluto in Aquarius, which is an air sign, it is the water bearer symbol, but it's an air sign, and it's really about innovation, and it's really about thinking forward. What are the new ideas, what are the things that we can do different, the ways that we can serve more people, the ways that we can actually transcend and go beyond what we've been doing? How can we, again, I think Pluto in Aquarius absolutely wants to dismantle things, and we want to use that. We want to use that. So again, I just feel like there's a couple of different energies, that Pluto in Aquarius with the Mars and Gemini helping us to communicate, helping us to stand up for things that we believe in, and to get into the details, and to do that in a way that's supporting our wanting to dismantle systems and take them apart. That energy, I think, is going to be super helpful. So, okay, last supportive, helpful transit that I think can just like affirm this group moving forward is a Venus sextile to Jupiter, which is just like a helpful way that they like support each other when they're a certain degrees apart in the sky. Venus is in Leo and Jupiter is in Gemini. Jupiter is all about belief, philosophy, kind of like values like Venus, but Venus is more personal and Jupiter is going to be more big. Like Jupiter can absolutely be like, the fact that we believe in abolitionism is a Jupiter thing that we share. If people are, of a certain Christian belief, or even astrology is like covered under Jupiter. So that's Jupiter, and it's in Gemini for a year, which is, again, all about communication and a lot about technology. And so Jupiter in Gemini is just going to be, I'd say, like, sometimes Jupiter can be a little bit of like the Kool-Aid man, where it just like comes in and like wants to like, oh, I'm going to make everything better, but it doesn't really like, it doesn't have nuance, if that makes sense. Like Jupiter is all about big, more, as well as being about belief. So when Jupiter is kind of unchecked, it can be a bit like, I'm just going to fix everything, it's going to be wonderful. And Jupiter in Gemini is a little bit more tempered, because Gemini is so about details. So Jupiter in Gemini is going to be this sort of like, I'd say, it's definitely helping us to tap into our beliefs in a very like methodical way, if that makes sense. Like Jupiter and Gemini, it remains to be seen because it's just moved into Gemini and it's going to be going for a year. Like what the sort of broad implications are going to be of this. But I'd say definitely when we're tapping into it, it's more about like our beliefs, how we want to expand things and how we want to make things bigger and better, but still paying attention to the details. So like having both of those things. And then because it is sextile to Venus in Leo is like super lovely, I think. Like it's like, but it's also very hot, like strong-willed, strong-hearted, like for the things that we believe in and the things that we love and and like our friends. And like, so again, Venus in Leo, sextile Jupiter and Gemini, I feel means that we can tap into this energy of like connection and like fierce, I think of like fierce riding hard for your friends, if that makes sense. Like really like loyalty is a big Leo trait. So like really like where are your loyalties, tapping into like the people who you feel safe with. I think because Venus in Leo wants to feel like that, like Leo is a bit of a performer and wants to like feel like they are centered, and everyone deserves to feel that with the people they feel safe with. Everyone deserves to feel like people see them. Leo wants to be seen. So really spending time talking to people with the Gemini Mercurial, like analyzing things, talking about all the details, all the things, keep bringing it up, keep I think like sharing and being vulnerable, but deciding who you're going to be vulnerable with, because we've all been vulnerable with people who are not the people who see us, and not the people who see us in the way that like we want to be seen and that is most helpful to us. So again, I hope that kind of makes sense. Yeah, I think like I think of vulnerability, I think of like again just being like tapped into the people who see you, and who will be there for you and ride hard for you, as they say. Tapping into like your ability to communicate your beliefs and your ability to communicate what you think needs to grow with those people. I think that's kind of a warning too, is like choosing who you are going to be vulnerable with. That doesn't mean like vulnerability, like you can be honest without being totally vulnerable, if that makes sense. You can be honest and stand up for things without like revealing your full self with people who are not safe. And just that's going to be different for everyone. Again, this is something that, you know, it's like we bring this into our own practice and ask ourselves, where's that line for me, and when does that line can shift, and choosing when to do it and doing it in an intentional way instead of being like just going with whatever. Anyways, I think I'm gonna stop. That's it.